Well, mounting nuclear threats over there, but terror hits right here. The worst terror attack in New York City since 9/11. It shook New York. Of course, New York is resilient. It came back strong. And of course, tomorrow is the marathon, which is going to be running despite the terror threats. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shafer joins us, and National Security Analyst Walid Phares. Let's start overseas, if you don't mind, gentlemen, with the North Korean threat. Colonel Shafer, what do you think the president hopes to get out of this trip?
Well, two things: to simply reassure the allies that we're there with them, especially, Vietnam, South Korea, the Philippines, all are within essentially targeting range of the North Koreans. So I think he's got to reassure them. And most importantly, David, to the point of the repeated discussions regarding who helps North Korea, China. China has to be essentially made very much aware of the consequences of any continued support of North Korea regarding the consequences of a hot war. And also, I think the president has to be very clear that one of the things that I think he can threaten them with, and he should, is most favored nation trade status. They fear that. You guys know on the economic side, sure, that's a huge issue. So that's something I think the president needs to say. Your continued status as a most favored nation is in jeopardy if you continue to support North Korea.
Walid, there's also the terror threat overseas, particularly in Asia. People usually don't think of Asia when they think of terror. They think of something here in Europe or the Middle East. But it's growing in Asia, and I think of a country like the Philippines, in which, particularly in the south of the Philippines, it's several islands, they're having a terrible time with terrorism. I imagine the president's going to try to get a united front in Asia against terrorism.
Absolutely. Actually, being in the Philippines would be a great opportunity to speak with their leadership and show the world, show the Asian countries that the United States is also partnering with these countries fighting terrorism. The Philippines has the longest experience in fighting the jihadists. But also keep in mind that Indonesia, Malaysia, although not on the trip this time, are all facing the same terror threats. So it is important to show that the United States has Asian partners in the fight against terrorism. Absolutely.
Colonel Shafer, let's get back to terrorism here
Sure,
at home, because one of the most disturbing things that happened as a result of the investigation of the terrorist, the suspected terrorist, is to find out about his diversity visa and the fact that not only did he come here based on this lottery program, but he was able to bring over about 23 of his own relatives. This whole program seems to be in serious need of reorganization, or at least rethinking, right?
Well, we know for a fact that terrorist organizations such as ISIS is looking for this sort of opportunity. And yeah, look, I don't think you mentioned that some of the victims of the attack were Argentine nationals. Nobody in the world would be concerned about Argentines coming here, because I think, first off, they don't have a deep-seated hate of America. So I think that's the first requirement, David. Anybody who essentially is telegraphing that the fact that they're not going to be assimilated, we have to rethink. And this diversity program does not allow for that. It essentially is a free ticket in. And secondly, to the point of this chain migration, look, my family came here at the beginning of the last century from Spain. No one is anti-immigration. People that I know are anti the idea that Chuck Schumer and all these guys want diversity. The security of the American people has to come first.
Walid, what about the status of this particular suspect? The president says he wants him charged as an enemy combatant. Do you think that's wise?
We had that discussion, if you recall, over the past 15 years, 7 years under the Bush administration, 8 years under the Obama administration. Now we're at the first year under the Trump administration. We need to make a final decision here between the administration and Congress. Are we at war against the jihadists and the terrorists or not? If we are, under the laws of wars, you have to have detention centers if you encounter and apprehend a terrorist. Now, the technical aspect of it, what if that terrorist was apprehended, is an American citizen, American person or not? That's a technical legal discussion, but the principle of having a detention center while we are at war, that fits under international law, absolutely.
Walid Phares, Colonel Tony Shafer, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming in on this Saturday. Meanwhile,